What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Bass Fishing Declassified. In this video, we're gonna have 5 anglers from 5 different regions of the country sharing their top bait for October. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, Cortiana here. Listen, I'm gonna take a few minutes and talk to you about throwing a jerkbait in the Tennessee Valley region. It's one of my favorite things to do in the month of October. It's that fall transition time. The lake turnover hasn't happened yet. The fish are up high in the columns. They're feeding on bait, and they love eating a jerkbait in October. So I'm gonna dig right into it. I'm gonna talk to you guys first and foremost about color selection. So I literally just left Lake Guntersville, one of the best TVA lakes there is, and I was catching a couple hundred fish a day, and a lot of them came on a jerkbait. The most important thing about a jerkbait is having confidence in it, but the color choice is kind of key to me. And most often when I'm throwing a jerkbait, I'm trying to imitate shad. So whether I'm throwing a big one or a little one, almost always using a shad colored jerkbait. That is my preference. I have some with some chartreuse bellies on them, but they're pretty much always shad colored because I'm literally targeting bass that are foraging on suspended bait balls. So shad base colored, you want the water clarity to be decent. It doesn't have to be crystal clear, but crystal clear is fine. What you don't want is you don't want it really, really muddy. That's not ideal conditions for a jerkbait. Second is, how do I work that jerkbait? The cadence. Simple rule of thumb, the warmer the water, the faster you work it. That being said, you still got to get creative with the fish. With forward-facing technology now, you can see how they respond. But for me, once I get to warmer water temperatures, and in October you're still warm on the TVA, you're still looking at 80-degree water temperatures, and you're starting to get down into the 70s and 60s, but still warm. You can work that bait as fast as you want to get that reaction bite, and that's what a jerkbait is really good at doing, is getting a fish to react. And this setup here is a 7-foot Kistler 3-power. That is a light, medium, heavy. I've got it on 10-pound fluorocarbon. This is a 7.3 to 1 Kistler Series 1 reel. You can slow your gear ratio down if you want, but if you think about it, you're not reeling that much. It's not like a crankbait where you're trying to control your speed so much. It's literally you're just twitching and taking up the slack. So you can use whatever gear ratio you want. I recommend having at least a 6/8 to 1, if not faster. Bottom line is, when you start to fight a fish, if it makes a run at you, it's nice to take in that slack. But having that real parabolic 2-power, 3-power rod will help keep from pulling those treble hooks out.
My favorite October bait by far is a deep diving crankbait. You guys know I love fishing offshore, and whether you're in Texas, Arkansas, the Tennessee River, or over in the Carolinas, you can catch fish deep cranking in October. What happens in October is that bass are going to start making their way into the backs of creeks on highland and lowland reservoirs, and they're going to stop off on key pieces of cover halfway back in these creeks. These could be brush piles, rock piles, or standing timber. Basically, if there's bait fish around a piece of cover in the middle of a creek, you're going to be able to find bass. A deep diving crankbait is a great tool to cover a lot of these pieces of cover quickly. The deep diving crankbait can target offshore pieces of cover in 5 feet of water down to 25 feet of water, depending on which bait you throw. And the bass are going to be feeding up heavily on shad, so the crankbait imitates shad really well. The 3 crankbaits I choose to cover all the depth ranges you need basically are, first up, the Spro Little John DD. The reason I choose this deep diving crankbait over any other is that this Spro Little John DD has flatter sides, which gives it a little bit different action in the water. And it also has a very long lip, which helps it deflect off cover really well. And it just works great in that 12 to 18 foot range in any type of cover you want to fish it in. Now, if I'm fishing shallower than that, let's say 4 to 12 feet of water, I have a new crankbait that I'm very hesitant to talk about because I've been catching a lot of fish on it, and I don't think I've had enough time to exploit it for myself yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and share it, and that is the Megabass Super Z3 crankbait. The Super Z3 crankbait is a tiny little crankbait that dives anywhere from 12 to 15 feet deep on really light line, like 8-pound test. But if you throw it on 12-pound FC Sniper fluorocarbon, you can get it down that 8 to 10 foot range really easily. And it has such a tiny profile compared to most deeper diving crankbaits, and it makes it a great option when bass in the fall are feeding on smaller shad. Honestly, this bait has been so good for me over the past 3 or 4 months, and I just think it's the fact that you can get a small bait like this so deep, and it has a nice weight transferring system on the cast, so you can cast it a lot further than these traditional small crankbaits you would find on the market. If you pair that up with a 7'2" medium heavy power Denali covert crankbait rod, that 7'2" length allows you to cast this bait even further. And the further the cast, the deeper these crankbaits are going to get down. Honestly, if you want to get it deeper, you could put it with 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon line on your bait caster, or even pair it on a spinning rod if you want to really get it down to its maximum depth. But I find that it works great for me in that like 6 to 12 foot range, just with this setup here and just a Black Max $50 reel. I'll throw this in some sort of shad pattern if I'm around shad, but also as I get into the fall, I plan to throw the crawfish patterns more as the fish start feeding up in the rocks on crawfish and things like that. And finally, if I need to fish deeper than 18 feet of water, let's say 18 to 25 feet, I go for the Strike King 10XD crankbait. This is a big bait that gets big bites. I fish a lot in Texas on like Sam Rayburn Lake or Toledo Bend Reservoir in October. Fish will get in ditches around rock piles, suspended timber in 15 to 25 feet. Also works well in Table Rock Lake for the suspended timber bass. And it is a really big bait, requires some special equipment. This is a 7'10" extra heavy power moderate action crankbait rod in the Lithium Pro series from Denali. Has a long handle on it, lets me cast this heavy bait a long distance. I'll pair it with 14 pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon, 4:1 gear ratio Max Z winch reel that again got at Walmart. And honestly, if you need to get deep in the fall and you can find fish in that depth zone, if you get bit on this crankbait, you're gonna catch your biggest fish of the fall and you're gonna catch some giant limits of fish. Caught a lot of 6, 7s, and 8s on this bait in October over the years. So not a super common bait that is going to work all the time. It's gonna be very situational. You're probably gonna find yourself reaching for the Spro Little John DD or this Megabass Z3 more often than not. But those are the 3 deep diving crankbaits I throw in October. Now let's go to the next angler.
What's up, y'all? I'm going to talk about my top lure that I'm going to throw in lakes in central, southern Arkansas, over into east Oklahoma, and even down into east Texas. So reservoirs that could be highland or lowland reservoirs. My top lure that I'm going to be throwing is a lipless crankbait. Y'all, the lipless crankbait is a very versatile lure. First off, the reason I like it is because I can cover a lot of water with it. Right now in October, we're in that fall transition, and each lake is different, and each part of the lake can be different. So you're trying to cover a lot of water and find fish, and with the lipless crankbait, I can do that. The other reason I like the lipless crankbait is because you can fish a bunch of different types of cover with it. You can fish your grass, such as hydrilla, milfoil. You can fish stumps. You can fish standing timber. You can go after the suspended fish even with it. And then, of course, you can go down your rock banks, say your 45-degree banks, or even your bluffs. So it's just an all-around versatile lure that can cover a lot of water and fish different types of cover for the fish. The areas that I'm going to choose are going to be the middle to back half of the creeks. And so each creek is different in its own way, as I said, earlier with the different types of cover. So you could have one of those covers in that creek, or you might not have any of the covers. For the early part of October, I'm going to be throwing my shad patterns mainly, but then about the third, fourth week, I'm going to pull out my reds. As y'all know, down here, even East Texas and southern central Arkansas, that red color, man, that craw rattle trap bite is really good, and it's something that those fish cannot resist. So like I said, I'm going to start pulling that out about that third week and start seeing if I can find some fish that will get on that pretty early. Y'all, the rod and reel selection can be very key when fishing a lipless crankbait. I fished the lipless crankbait my whole life, but the last 2 to 3 years, man, it has been one of my best lures and caught some of my biggest fish, for sure in the last 2 years that I know. And part of it is how I've changed up some of my strategies and some of my reel selections when throwing this lure. Y'all, right now I'm throwing a Denali Covert Light 7.2 medium heavy crankbait rod, but I will and have caught fish on a spinnerbait rod with the lipless crankbait, anything from a 6.9 to 7.2 medium heavy, but with a good tip that will let them fish eat it and not pull it out of their mouth. Because at times they'll come up and slap the end of that thing, and if you have a tip that will give, you will hook more fish. And if you have a strong tip, it'll pull it right out of their mouth every time. Y'all, one thing about my reel, I use a fast reel when using the lipless crankbait. Right now, this right here is a 7:2-to-1 gear ratio. I've used a 7:2-to-1. I've used some up in the 10 ranges even. I'm going to share you one quick tip about a retrieve that I've learned over the past couple years. There's many different retrieves I can talk about this bait, but one of them, of course, and you hear it a lot, is the stop and go. But I'm going to share just a little bit of my experience with the stop and go retrieve since live scopes came out. So, you know, you've heard about when you're reeling it, you stop it, and then at times with me, before live scope, I mean, those fish will eat that thing a second to half a second right after you stop the retrieve. And this also can be, you know, with your deep diving crankbaits, your square bills. I mean, you've heard this all the time. But with live scope now, man, I've watched fish follow that lure and not eat it, you know, and that happens with other baits as well. But one thing with this, and like I said, with that fast retrieve, they're following it and they're not really sure about it, but then when you stop it and you're reeling it so fast that you stop it, I think those fish come up to it and then it's a reaction strike to them and they go and eat it. So that's one thing that's unique about this bait, you know, it's there in the water column, it's going across, it's not going down or here, and those fish are really following it. Like I said, and you stop it, it's a reaction strike to them because they're going to run up and nudge up into it. So I think to the bass, it's just their instinct to, hey, I'm about to eat this thing. So switch up your retrieves, let the fish tell you what they want that day. Don't forget about the stop and go. And y'all, go ahead, have your lipless crankbait tied on, go catch you some more fish and big fish for this month. On to the next angler.
In the northern part of the country, we will see drastic water temperature decreases during the month of October. We may start the month with water temps still in the low 60s, but by the end of the month, we may be down into the 40-degree range. So we're gonna have fish that are very much in a transition phase where they could be starting the month up shallow and they're ending in their wintering areas in 30 feet of water by the end of the month. Because of that, one of the prime areas I like to fish is rock. Rock will absorb the sunlight and therefore produce heat on some of those cold fall days. And one of my go-to baits anytime I'm fishing rock is a small Ned rig. This is the Z-Man Finesse TRD mixed with a Berkley Fusion 19 half head jig head. It's my go-to anytime I'm dealing with a Ned rig, and a Ned rig is phenomenal around rock for a couple of different reasons. One, you can fish it down to 30 feet if you want to, but at the same time it works great on the flats for covering water. I'm going to be looking for those rock transitions where I've got sand to gravel or rock. Most of those fish that are up on the flats will be running those hard rock edges, and therefore I've got a better opportunity of catching both largemouth and smallmouth because I'm keying in on the rock. Anytime I'm heading out in October to do some fishing, I'm going to concentrate on the clear water fisheries because the clear water will retain heat much better than the dark water lakes and rivers. And because that clear water retains heat, you have more active fish, which leads to better action. From the month of October until we ice up, generally speaking, I'm concentrating on the clear water fisheries. And because I'm fishing the clear water fisheries, I'm just gonna throw a straight green pumpkin color, nothing fancy, but it's proven to work everywhere around the country, and it's one of my absolute favorite colors. I pair that up with a 16th ounce Berkley half head. This is a very light jig head, and that's generally what I start with. I like a 16th ounce, which gives me the maximum amount of spiraling action as well as gliding action out of the Ned rig on the fall, which are good characteristics to generate reaction strikes. Now, if that's not working, here's a very good tip for you. Go to a much heavier head. Go from super light to very heavy for a Ned rig. I'm talking a 3/8 ounce jig head, so that you're going to get this thing to fall like a rock, straight to the bottom, but that super fast fall creates reaction strikes out of the same fish that were watching that light Ned rig fall to the bottom, and we're ignoring it. They have a hard time ignoring it when it's falling really fast right by their faces. So don't be afraid to switch to a very heavy Ned rig head. From a rod and reel standpoint, pretty basic finesse equipment. I've got a 7.3 custom built MHX NSJ 871. So it's a 7.3 medium light fast action rod. Gets the job done for those big largemouth and smallmouth that I'm gonna be catching this month. I've got that paired up with an Garcia Revo MGX Extreme, which is a fantastic reel that has a perfect drag, which you're going to need because a lot of these fish still have a lot of good fight power left in them. If your drag's not set right, you could break a lot of these fish off on the light line. In this case, I'm throwing a 10-pound Berkley X9 braided line, main line, tied to a 15-foot leader of 6-pound test Berkeley 100% fluorocarbon. The fluorocarbon just seems to generate a lot of additional strikes for me, and the lighter I go in line, the more strikes I get.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bass Fishing Declassified. In today's segment, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite all-time October bass fishing lures, and that's a Heddon Super Spook Topwater Lure. I think a lot of people are real familiar with the Zara Spook. It's one of the most famous and most iconic fishing lures there are out there for bass. And the Super Spook has sort of replaced the regular spook for many anglers. Came about 15 or 20 years ago, probably, maybe not even 20 years ago. It's a little bit larger, same profile, just a little bit larger. And not only will it catch bigger fish, but it still gets, in my opinion, the same amount of bites as the regular spook. So I throw a Super Spook probably 95% of the time when I'm fishing a spook over the regular one. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about October, what you need to look for this. October is a huge transitional month in bass fishing. It's like normally most of the time in October, that's the first time since the springtime you have some major frontal systems come in that really drop the air temperature and the water temperature. So normally in October you'll have one of those big cold fronts come through where you got a strong northerly wind, drops the water temperatures down a few degrees, and when that happens, that's when your topwater lures really start to fire up pretty good. And that's when I go to the Super Spook. For me, a lot of it has to do with, as far as where I fish it at, it has to do with the type of lake you're fishing and the water clarity. For the most part, what I'm looking for is main and secondary points. Could be creek points, it could be secondary points in coves, it could be main lake points. It's all about points. And usually what I do is I start out early and late in the day, fairly shallow on the points, as long as I've got water clarity over 2 feet. If you've got water clarity of over 2 feet, the Super Spook will work, and that clarity all the way up to the clearest water you can have, over 20-foot clarity. But I start out in those low light conditions, fishing the spook shallow, normally less than 5 feet of water, fishing the point ends and sides with it. Now, up in the day, as the day comes up a little bit, depending upon the water clarity, I'll move out deeper on the points. If I have water visibilities that are sort of in that 4 foot or clearer range, which is common in a lot of man-made reservoirs, I'll get the boat out sometimes in 25 or 30 foot of water, and I'll fan cast those same point ends and sides, trying to target that sort of that 8 to 20 foot zone, because in that clear water you will bring fish not only off the bottom but a long distance that are just out there, you know, chasing shad and that type of stuff. It works really good all day long. It works really good especially if you have a mixed species. If you have a lake that has a lot of spotted bass, smallmouth and largemouth, there'll be a lot of those fish roaming out deeper on those points, especially smallmouth bass. Most of the time I like some type of calmer weather conditions, light winds, either calm to just a little ripple on the water. But if you have some really clear water, like over 5 foot visibility, you can catch them in surfing the waves with them. Like in 20-mile-an-hour winds, they'll come up and hammer that Super Spook in that type of situation. Second to points there, sometimes I'll just get in the back of the coves and cover water. There could be some late bluegill spawns going on. I just get this thing tied on the bank and cover water with it. Most of the time I'm fishing it on like a 6 foot 10 inch medium action rod. I use usually 20-pound test monofilament line on it, just the straight walk the dog retrieve. I'll vary with speeds depending upon the mood and personality of the bass. One little tip I'll give you with this bait that'll help you catch fish on those points is make your cast out there, and as soon as the spook hits the water, reel it as fast as you can without doing anything to it for like 5 or 10 feet. And the thing's just going crazy all over the water, and then stop it dead in the water and let it sit until the ripples disappear. And a lot of times they'll come up and blast it like that once you get their attention. One of these old Ozark experts down here that was like 85 years old taught me about that. So anyway, it's one of the greatest Ozark baits that there is. It works good in any clear water impoundment across the country. Give it a try. You'll catch some good fish and lots of them this fall. We'll talk later. See you.
Really quick, if you're enjoying the detailed instruction in this video, then head to our website, fishthemoment.com, and check out our virtual seminars page. Here you'll find seminar recordings from past seminars we've done on a variety of bass fishing topics, from seasonal bass movement, electronics, offshore bass fishing, and how weather affects bass. These are 3-hour seminars with extremely detailed graphics and instruction that we spend hours putting together so that they're extremely clear and impactful. If you want to take your fishing to the next level and enjoy the content on this channel, definitely check out our virtual seminars because I know you'll love the content. Check them out at fishthemoment.com. And those are our top 5 baits for October spread across the entire country. Let us know down in the comments below which baits you like the best. Let us know which regions you would like us to cover in future top bait videos like this. And also let us know what you think about this entire format for this channel. We're going to try to continue to bring you content from all across the country from different anglers. So any feedback you have is greatly appreciated. Thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you on the next one.